The country of Bhutan just recently announced that it was going into partnership with RippleNet to test the central bank digital currency of Bhutan. And in this press release, they outlined the reasoning and the purpose for it. Now, this was announced several days ago, but they just came out with their press release officially. Now, this is an interesting thing because for Ripple, this is one of the biggest use cases of XRP. But I'm also going to cover in this video a survey that was just taken about cryptocurrency usage that relates to several things, including what could essentially power the mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency payment systems and how it relates to XRP. Also, it was noted that JP Morgan appears to have been done its summer Bitcoin buying session because it just recently said something about Bitcoin that its CEO, Jamie Dimon, doesn't personally believe, but he says it's going to happen. I'll get into it. And in the Ripple versus SEC case, the SEC just wrote a letter to Judge Netburn announcing that it wants a telephonic conference to discuss a couple of things because Ripple's not playing games with them. So I'm going to tell you what the SEC is actually going after and what the next steps in this case might actually look like. Hey everyone, my name is Randy and welcome back to the Late Night Grind. Right now on this channel, I am covering the Ripple versus the SEC case, along with other cryptocurrency news, investment markets, and personal finance. So if any of those topics interest you, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Also, hit that bell notification icon so that YouTube will notify you when I release a new video. And of course, I believe people in the crypto space are some of the most generous people on the planet. So if you are feeling generous today, I'd appreciate it if you do two things. Number one, smash that thumbs up button. And number two, watch this video all the way to the end. Those are really the two best things that you can do to support a YouTube channel. So if you do that, I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, guys, let's jump into it. First thing I want to talk about is JP Morgan announcing just the other day that it appears that institutional investors, at least according to them, are dumping gold in favor of Bitcoin and crypto. That's really interesting because at the beginning of the year, they announced pretty much the exact opposite. Now, of course, the price of Bitcoin was falling in May when they announced that, and it is now climbing when they announced that, well, institutional investors are back on board. Or as some people note, it basically just means JP Morgan wanted the price of Bitcoin to fall a little bit more so they could buy as much as possible and then start pumping Bitcoin again with positive articles about it. Or it could just be a complete coincidence. But nonetheless, JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, he's basically famous for saying that he believes Bitcoin is worthless. But he's going to do what his customers want, which is big institutional investors, and actually provide services for them for the crypto and Bitcoin space. Well, he recently just said that he believes that Bitcoin is going to go to well over $200,000 during this market cycle, and that within 5 years, Bitcoin will be going for over $1 million. That's a pretty big statement for somebody who says Bitcoin is worthless. Now, another guy, Peter Schiff, also says Bitcoin is worthless, but he thinks it's going to go to zero and the whole crypto market's going to fall apart because it's just a fad. Kind of like what people said about the internet in the mid-1990s. And before I get to the Ripple versus the SEC case, I wanted to draw your attention to a survey that was just taken and how it kind of ties into Ripple. There is an IT research company, their name is Capgemini Research Institute, and they recently did a survey of some of their customers as well as some of their stakeholders on the use of cryptocurrencies. And as it stands right now, according to their survey, less than 10% of people, of the respondents, use cryptocurrency to make any kind of payments. But what they did say was that by 2023, which by the way, that's only about 15 months away, would be up to 45% of people will be using some form of cryptocurrency to make payments. Now, the survey mainly talked about things like crypto credit cards gaining more mainstream adoption and usage, which, yeah, you see that a lot. I see a lot more advertisements for those kind of things right now. However, your respondents, you're an IT company, so your respondents are probably more on the tech-savvy side, probably a little bit more on the younger side, and are probably more open to using things like crypto credit cards. So those results of 45% might actually be a little bit skewed. But here's the thing. Those crypto credit cards, I think the usage and the adoption of them is more so because of the rewards that a lot of those companies are offering. You see the advertisements of these credit cards paying you back in Bitcoin just for using their credit card. Now, whether you're actually spending crypto or spending a digital dollar, that could be a little bit of a different story because from my perspective, I don't see a whole lot of people actually using their digital assets, which is essentially what these cryptocurrencies are, they're digital assets, for just regular everyday spending. But in my mind, what actually would make the most sense for things like those credit cards and any other type of retail or everyday spending would be something like stable coins. So rather than using your digital assets to actually make purchases, you could actually just convert that to a stable coin and use the stable coins to actually make those purchases. However, those retail places or those online places have to actually accept stable coins as payment. Right now, you can pay a lot of places using Bitcoin and things like that, but nobody's willing to give up their Bitcoin and even Dogecoin because they're digital assets. They're speculative. People are assuming that it's going to up in value over the long term. They're not just going to spend it on a pizza. Well, at least not anymore. But here is my thought on it. The other option, other than a stablecoin, would be a CBDC, a central bank digital currency. Because that is also essentially a stablecoin. It is basically just a made-up currency controlled by whatever government created it. And those CBDCs would essentially be used like the dollar is now. It's not necessarily pegged to the dollar. It would just be a digital dollar. However, if a lot of other countries around the world start creating their own central bank digital currencies, which the first one is now going onto the XRPL sidechain, you can see where I'm going with this. Other countries that choose to create their own central bank digital currencies are going to be putting it on existing cryptocurrency blockchains. Now, this is one of the biggest use cases that people have been talking about, especially over the past 6 to 12 months, for XRP, being interoperable with all of the central bank digital currencies, or in the case of Bhutan, actually hosting their central bank digital currency on the XRPL, the XRP ledger. You can start to figure it out that XRP would essentially be the underlying liquidity mechanism for all central bank digital currencies and essentially the underlying crypto asset for all global payments. Now that's probably best case scenario, of course, but if you think that central bank digital currencies are really coming to the crypto space, and I think eventually they will be, then XRP should be something that you should be looking into. And now finally to the Ripple versus the SEC case, there's a couple of dates coming up that I wanted to talk about. The biggest one being October 15th. This is the date that the SEC has to turn over those 3 documents that Ripple told Judge Netburn, hey, listen, they have 3 documents that you really need to read those. And of course, Judge Netburn ordered that the SEC turn over those documents to her for review. What are those documents? Well, those documents are the unbelievably incriminating documents that really point to major conflict of interest / corruption that has actually led to a lot of mainstream media coverage of this case. And if you want to see all the nitty-gritty details about exactly what those documents are and what they cover, you can watch my previous videos. I cover a lot of them. Or also go to John Deaton's Twitter feed. He actually just outlined a lot of the stuff, a lot of the backstory as to why Ripple was actually sued and the major conflict of interest behind it on his Twitter feed. Some unbelievable information. I'll link that in the description below and you can go and follow him there as well as myself. But something else that is coming up, and this we have to wait on Judge Netburn for, because the SEC recently wrote a letter to Judge Netburn saying, listen, we want Ripple to turn over all their recorded meetings to us because they said they did that, but we want more of them. So they want Judge Netburn to have a telephonic conference between all of them to figure out if Ripple needs to basically re-review all of their recordings and turn any more over to the SEC. Ripple, of course, responded and gave 3 reasons why they shouldn't have to, and because they basically already did. Number 1, they said, well, discovery period, the discovery time frame has already passed. And number 2, the SEC already agreed to our search methodology, which is one of the things that they had talked about in their initial request. And number 3, Ripple says, well, we already performed those search and turned over what we needed to turn over, so essentially that is done. So we're going to have to wait and see what Judge Netburn actually says about this, as this is one of those things that is actually kind of helping this case be drawn out even more. Because November 12th is actually the official deadline of all expert discovery, and at that point, a trial will be announced, unless, of course, there's a settlement before that, which, personally, I highly doubt. But then we'll be moving into the trial time frame. So if you want to follow along with that, along with any of these other stories, make sure you're subscribed to the Late Night Grind channel. Also, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and check out the community tab. I put up polls up there on a weekly, sometimes daily basis. Love to know what you guys think, what members of the Late Night Grind community are thinking about all of this and other things surrounding the crypto space. But once again, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate the big thumbs up. I really do. And staying all the way to the end of the video. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.